Hello, 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 everybody. We are live with Let's Talk BS. And as you know by now, the BS stands for Brandy and Soraya. And we are sisters who grew up our entire lives together, both dealt with our own forms of trauma in different ways. And we're both currently psychology majors in school. Brandy is obtaining her bachelor's degree. Currently, I am in my PhD program, and we are super, super excited to be here having this podcast and being able to talk with amazing guests like our guest that we have coming on today, which I will briefly introduce, but we'll let her do her own introduction in just a few moments. Brandy should be jumping on here shortly, but we wanted to be timely on today and make sure that we're on exactly at 6 o'clock because it has been about a month since you guys have seen us just because of the way the holidays fell and things like that. So we are back in full force. Super excited to be here. And our topics are always mental health related because, listen, we have to stop making mental health a taboo topic. We have to talk about this stuff, right? So that we can heal, so that we can grow into the people that we're designed to be, so that we can stop having the limitations and the stigmas put on us because somebody doesn't want to be embarrassed by something. Listen, time out for that. So we're here to talk about today with the beautiful Ivy Hall. Look at her, y'all. She got this little bob thing. Like, I am just loving it. Okay. Yes, honey. Work it. And we met each other on social media. You guys, social media is so awesome in um connecting people. I'm trying to get to the Facebook post as well because somebody is on there saying that it was not public, so I'm not sure what's happening there. Um okay, there we go. There we go. So we're just gonna make it. Let me give me one moment, you guys. Let me just edit privacy and make sure that it's on public. There we go. So it should be on public now. Thank you for that little 2 second intermission.
Let me try to
So,
share it well.
okay. Let me make sure, or tell me whether or not it's working.
Okay.
If you're able to share it from your page,
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah.
is it working now? Perfect. Okay. So Brandy's on her way. She is having some technical difficulties, you guys. But in the interim, let's go ahead and have Miss Author, Miss Entrepreneur, Miss Beautiful Brown Alchemist, as she goes by, introduce herself. Tell us a little bit about you.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you so much, Soraya, for sharing this amazing platform with me. Thank you for holding space with me. As she already said, we literally linked up in the metaverse, as people call it. Okay. This was not a personal connection, but you know what? It's like they say, your vibe attracts your tribe. And so me, is still connect. And I just, it's so amazing. And I am on social media. I'm known as Beautiful Brown Alchemist. So on Instagram, you can find me at Beautiful Brown Alchemist. On Facebook, I'm Ivy B Alchemy. And let's talk a little bit about me. So, yes, I am an author. I recently released my ebook, Why I Decided to Stop Being a Strong Black Woman. I
Woo!
like it was time for this conversation to be had, not only amongst the Black community, but you know what? Forget it. Let's talk about this amongst the world. The other day I was out with my son and I was even talking about my book with people who did not look like me because
Mhm.
it is a message that must be understood. A lot of times people expect Black women to show up strong. That has been programmed in us. We've seen it for so
Mhm.
long, not only us within our community, but again, others outside of our community. They began to think of us in that way as well. And I believe I've been charged with this dynamic, yes, even challenging message to deliver
Woo.
because I want my sisters to be able to live a softer life. I believe that Black women, we do deserve a soft life. We do deserve a life of leisure. What do I mean by a soft life? And I'm gonna pause in a second, Soraya, but hey, I'm ready. I'm fired up.
I was about to say, okay, well,
Excuse me.
listen, bring it.
Man, I'm bringing the heat today, okay? What do I mean by a soft life? A soft life simply means that I'm not struggling. Um, I'm not putting in all the hard work in my accomplishment, but I'm putting myself in a position to receive. You all have to think about it. As a woman, we are genetically made. With whatever you want to say about gender roles, I respect all of that. I'm not coming for anybody in any community, but what I am saying is if I was made and created and born as a woman, that automatically means that my feminine energy, for one, should have a slightly greater presence in my life.
Mhm,
It doesn't mean that I don't tap into my masculine energy, because yes, I absolutely do when I have to.
mhm,
But what it means is that I am still putting myself in a position to receive, not only to receive from a man. Okay, so this is not just talking about sex, but this is about talking about how am I putting myself in a position to receive from the universe, to receive from God, to receive from my family, my friends, and even receive from myself.
mhm,
So what this strong Black woman title does is that it disconnects us from ourselves. It disconnects us from our inner child. We don't connect to that inner child because guess what? You're being firm with that child. When you
mhm,
okay, come on now. You were raised in the Black community, probably like me. You grew up around people who that we didn't they didn't play. Okay.
mhm,
Um, your upbringing was very important. Your upbringing was very structured. Your
mhm,
upbringing was oftentimes very strong, right? And so if I'm operating as a strong Black woman all the time, it disconnects me from my own inner child, and it disconnects me from my own feminine energy. But back to your question, and I'm sorry, a little, just a teeny bit about me. Yes, I am an author, but I am also the owner of a publishing company. As I
okay.
wrote my book and I self-published my book, and I was a part of a collaboration book before this. So I do have a previous book that I wrote in. But as I was writing this book, the download also came to me. It is my job not only to share this message, but also to help other people share their words, their
Mhm,
wisdom, their life experience with the world. You know, books are a way for us to leave our legacy.
mhm.
Some women will never have children. Some people will never have children, but that does not mean that there is not something great that you should birth and leave the earth with. So that's just a
I
little bit
love
more
it.
about me, and I'll share a little bit more as we continue to go on. But go ahead, Sarai, because I could
I
talk.
love it. You remind me much of myself. I love to talk, and not in a negative way, but just, there's so much on the
But
inside of us that we
go
feel
ahead.
like we need to get out. And so it's all good. I am completely understanding. And it's so funny that you talk about this being a strong Black woman and kind of being softer, because just recently, probably before, I want to say maybe like, I don't know, maybe a week or so ago, I had put out a post that that said, it talked about, I was having a conversation basically, and that's where this post came from. And the conversation inside of this group was talking about the way that the girl put it was like, we have to be queens, but we also have to be the princess sometimes. And she was talking specifically about when you're dealing with your man. But that kind of gave me some vibes of, I couldn't really take it there because I've been molested as a child. So the whole princess thing, that wasn't working for me. So, but what I had to do was kind of flip it a little bit. And I talked about, having to be softer because I am the strong Black woman, right? So I was so excited to have this conversation, and I'm very excited to dig deeper with you on it because my entire life has been that strong Black woman, even as a little child. And so I got so super independent and so strong that I don't need nobody to wear the pants, because I'm gonna wear the pants to in the skirt. And so, but that created so much tension in my marriage and in subsequently. So just a little bit about me. I've been married multiple times actually,
That's
which is
hold on,
why
time.
I'm also a divorce coach.
I'm gonna give you a hand clap. 'Cause guess what? We're gonna do it till we get it right, sis. Okay.
Period.
We're gonna do it till we get it right. You, it's
But I
real.
do believe that I found the man that God had for me right now.
Right.
And but I was still having a hard time connecting with him because of that strong black female, that strong energy that I have. Like I, and let me tell you something about my husband. He used to be a strongman competitor. So for real, he's strong, right? Like he ain't on, he's a true man's man, right? But I'm coming, like with the whole, like I could not physically square up with him, but like
Yeah.
square up with him emotionally and mentally, and not really letting him, have his place as the man. And so I had to put that post out even for myself, because I know if it's something that I deal with, that is something other women deal with as well, because that's how we were raised. That's how we were taught. My mom raised me to be a strong black woman, an independent woman. I remember being a kid trying to help pay the bills and all that kind of stuff, because that's just who I was. I was always the one people came to. I was always the one that had to have the backbone. I was the one that would put somebody out if they was giving my mom a problem or whatever the case may be. Like that was me. I was the one that felt like I had to protect my little sister. I was always the one that the one. I was just always the one, you know what I mean? So I grew up with that. And then, going through different traumas throughout life of, not only the molestation, but date rapes, and then, domestic violence and different things like that. Going through all of those things made me even stronger. They weakened me in the moment because, I was having the issue of being that victim in that moment, but they ultimately made me stronger. Somebody in the comment says, "Woo, but in these days, it's hard to want to be a gentle woman for these men." I feel you. Like that's my daughter making that comment, and I feel her. Like I get it, and I've been with those men as well, right?
And we're gonna get to all of that. So just
Hmm.
stay tuned. But go ahead. I want you to finish, Soraya, because right now what you're doing is even that vulnerability and that transparency. That's a part of how I break down this thing of being a strong black woman. When we become so strong to where we can't share our story because we don't want anybody to think of us as a victim. So just you being
Hmm.
to be so authentic and vulnerable. I just want to say kudos to you because that is a part of the healing process. So I please, please keep going.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I've learned over the years that and the Bible talks about this, how, we overcome by our testimony. And so I don't shy away from telling my testimony. When my first book came out, and this was back in like 2012, it that book was my journal. And so my journal was to figure out how to heal myself. And so that ultimately became a published book. Did I want it to become a published book? Not necessarily. That was, all of the muck and the mire that I had stuck down on the inside of me, that I had been dealing with since early childhood. But God told me it wasn't about me. And so when, when he told me that, I was devastated for a moment, but then I had to realize that there is somebody else out there that needs to hear your story so that they can learn how to not only survive, but also to thrive. I went through a long period of anger and
Mm,
just a mess. When I tell you a mess, like a complete mess, okay? Complete mess. But ultimately, I learned how to start to heal. I learned how to start to recover from the things that I had went through only by facing them, though, right?
yeah.
I had to face those things in order to be able to fight them. And one of the things that I've been really posting regularly recently in different groups and things like that is like, you can't fight an enemy that you can't see. And
Mm,
so if you don't face
mm-hmm.
the issues, then you can't combat it. And the strong black woman falls right in line with all of that, because you have to be like, so tough in the world. Feel like the society makes you want to feel like you have to be tough in the workplace, in
Absolutely.
the, in your relationships, everywhere. You always, as black women, we always feel like we gotta fight, not necessarily physically, but
But
like we
show
always have to fight, right?
dominant energy. Absolutely.
Yes, we have to. And so one of the things that I wanted to ask you is, do you think that based on the title of your book, like, because the title of your book is Why I Stopped Being a Strong Black Woman, right? So
Mhm.
based on that title, do you just view being a strong Black woman as a negative thing, or can it kind of be split into positive, negative?
Yeah, that, you know what? That is an amazing question. I do believe that there is so much strength or positivity that comes out of being a strong black woman. And what I'm challenging though is the narrative of us always showing up in our strength, always showing up in that dominant, ready to fight energy. And so,
Mhm.
a lot of what you said hit home. You have to think about it. We've been programmed to think that this title of being a strong black woman is one of the greatest titles that we can
Mhm.
obtain as a melanated person. And so we've seen our grandmothers be strong. We've seen our
Yep.
moms be strong. We've had to become strong through different situations, like you said, molestation, abandonment, divorce, domestic violence, rejection. You're talking about some children being grandma's favorite or mom's favorite. All
Mm.
that begins to put on these layers, this armor that we begin. Instead of us still showing up as us, we're showing up with this armor. To me, that is the negative side because, and then not only that, let me go back before I get to that. The other thing is what we see on the media. So if you look at black women in the media, and I'm talking about a lot of television shows, there are very few television shows now that show softer black leading female characters.
Right.
Don't have that Felicia Rashad anymore. We don't have that Diane Carroll. She was in the soap operas back in the day with the champagne honey, talking very soft, but letting the girls know. We don't see that. Now we have what I like to call, we have a lot of drama porn. We have a
Yes.
porn, right? So when we talk about what we see, not only on reality TV shows, but I'm also talking about scripted television shows. I'm talking about movies where black women always have a very dominant energy. So then not only am I being programmed in my life, my family circle, I'm also being programmed by what has happened to me in my life. But then what I
Mhm.
see on TV is also telling me this is how I'm supposed to show up. What I'm challenging is because why I decided to stop being a strong black woman is because I figured out that's not who I really am. This
That's
is
good.
who I am. At my core, I don't want to show up and be strong every day. But don't get me wrong. Here's the thing. We're gonna be strong anyway, okay? So now I'm a free thinker. This is one thing I wanted to say when you asked me about me. I am a very free thinker. A part of
Mhm.
my free thinking is that being a woman, having a womb. Now, this is whether you've had a hysterectomy, you had a remove. You were
Right.
born with this portal, this sacred womb space. We are automatically strong. So I don't have to carry my strength and my personality.
Mm.
I don't
That's
have to carry
good.
strength around like a shield and a sword everywhere I go because I got to let people know they can't mess with me. Listen, it's called strategy. I don't have to come because I can still let people know that I'm not the one, the two, or the three without coming off so aggressive. I think it's the scripture and it says to be wise as a serpent, but harmless as a dove. It's another scripture. It's
Mm.
this thing about, well, we know it. You get more with honey than you do with the ish, right? I mean, that's
That's
just
the truth.
fact. So if I'm trying to attract what I want in my life, this is in people, this is relationship, this is at work, all of these things. And no, I'm not saying be a doormat. I'm not saying that. I don't want anybody saying, well, now she just, no, I'm not saying that. And even to your daughter's comment, we're not talking about being the soft woman for any type of man. But as I become softer and as I tap into who I truly am and I become a more authentic version of myself, I'm going to automatically attract men who are more authentic
Yes.
as well. And I'm going to
Yes.
automatically give off the energy. You know what? Again, I'm not the one, the two, or the three. It doesn't mean I'm coming off like this, but he can see from the way that I sit. He can see from the way that I talk. He can see from the way that I care about myself that no, baby, you want to play games, go play with your mom, as they used to say. I'm from Mississippi. Don't play with your moms because Mother's Day is coming up. I'm not saying, but that's where I'm from. Saying, um, but this thing of being a strong Black woman, we're all born with masculine and feminine energy,
Mm-hmm.
each and every one of us. Our masculine energy is what has allowed you to get that. You're almost at your doctorate degree, and congratulations to you, Soraya.
Thank you.
Accomplishment, but that accomplishment, being successful on our jobs, running our household, having structure in our home, making decisions day to day, that is our masculine energy. So it's not that we're not using that strength. We use it every single day. The issue is that I have seen, and I have friends across many nationalities and races and ethnicities
Mm-hmm.
and all the other demographics you could say. I don't see any other woman showing up as strong. I don't see any other woman. Hey, hey, Brandy. I don't see any other woman working as hard, carrying all this weight like I do Black women.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that I don't see is, and these things are statistically proven, but when you look at mental health, when you look at physical health, more Black women have breast cancer, more Black
Mm-hmm.
have womb issues than any other race. More Black women, yeah. Now, mental health is something that goes all across the spectrum. But when you look at the stats on how Black women are 50% less likely to seek mental health assistance or to get
Mm-hmm.
therapy, why is
Why
that?
is that though? Yep, that's what I was gonna say. Why is
So,
that?
in other ways,
Yeah.
those, again, they show up in our body. It's cancer, it's
Mm-hmm.
issues, womb issues, all of these things. But then they do show up in the mental health space. We're shouting at our kids because we were shouting at. We're beating the hell out of our kids because guess what? Hell, my mama beat me too. So you can't tell me you can't take a whooping, right? We
Mm-hmm.
we recycle these things that need to be unlearned. And it is perfectly okay with unlearning things that you know good and well did not serve you, did not serve your womanhood, did not serve your childhood. So now at this age and at this space, I have to take accountability and I have to say, you
Mm-hmm.
know what? I know these things didn't serve me. So what do I need to unlearn, not only for myself, but also for my children and for those around me? Because it's the way that I take care of myself, again, as people see that your energy changed, they're either going to change with you or they're going to fall to the side.
Mm-hmm.
But by the other token, you're going to begin to attract the right people in your space.
That's
So,
right.
um, it's a multi-layered thing, but I don't look at it as being a total negative, but the way that I see this strong Black woman energy being carried out, I see a lot of women. I saw this girl, she was on a podcast. She was a podcast guest, and she was a single mom, and she made a statement to the point of like, I work my fingers to the bones before I ask my son's dad or my daughter's dad for help. That is an unhealthy perspective.
Mindset. Yeah. I had that mindset.
I've
Mm-hmm.
been divorced, and my ex-husband, anybody that personally knows me, this man, he assaulted me physically. And even during the divorce, he made it absolutely treacherous because he was a wealthy man, and I was real proud of that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Then it came down to when we were going through the divorce, this man showed me no mercy. He had the top lawyers. He made it, I mean, absolutely
Mm.
treacherous. And we share a child together, right?
Oh wow.
Yeah. But and so I understand how when you're in that situation, how you can make a statement like that. I'm not oblivious to that. But what I am saying is that if that is your mindset, that you'll work your fingers to the bones before you ask somebody, I'm just gonna say somebody for help, that's exactly what you're gonna get. When we begin to take on these mindsets and these mental perspectives that I don't need to ask anybody for help. I'm
Mm-hmm.
always have my back. Guess what?
That's
God,
what the universe is gonna give you though, too. Then you gonna be
you think
suffering
everybody
for
has
no
time?
reason.
Because you said you have it.
Yep.
So it's not only a physical thing, this is also a spiritual battle.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I'm very passionate. No, I don't. It's nothing wrong, but the way that the energy is being carried out, I feel like so many of us Black women are missing out on the love. We're missing out on the careers. We're missing out on moments with our kids because we don't want to be vulnerable. We don't
Mm-hmm.
want to ask anybody for help, because guess what? The last time I asked somebody for help, they didn't come through. But that doesn't mean you so you're never
That you
gonna.
completely give up. Right. You just change your circle. You change the people around you. You change the people that you ask. You don't just stop asking
Right,
because we're not meant to do this thing alone.
right,
So you're
right.
definitely on the right path here with what you're saying. I love it. There are two things before I say anything, Brand. You got anything you want to jump in and say yet? Because I
Not
have
yet.
two things I want to circle back to. Two things you said to were pretty key. One of them was you talking about the stats and how we have a higher rate of certain types of medical issues. And one thing that I want to tell you guys that are listening or that may listen later, we always think that, like trauma is like, and I'm talking like mental health type of trauma is, exactly that. It's like a mental health thing, and like we need to maybe get on a medication or something like that. But listen, trauma shows up in the body. The body carries trauma. So when you're having these pains and these aches, and you most of the time can't even figure out why, or you're having these diseases come up and things like that, it's because of trauma that you're carrying in your body that you have not dealt with. Now, is everything related to that? No. Obviously, there are things out there that are going to happen, different diseases and disorders and things like that. But a lot of times it's because we're carrying trauma in our body. So you're wondering why your neck hurts or your back hurts or your stomach, or because that's how we carry it. So I just want you guys to be aware of that, so that the next time you start having this random ache and pain and you're not able to figure out where it's coming from, you might want to look at getting some trauma healing, some trauma recovery work done in your life, because that may help to solve that issue for you. The other thing was you were talking about. Oh, go ahead.
Before you go to the next
Hmm.
point, I want everyone to understand trauma can get stored in your DNA. They've
Yep.
all done the medical science to show that if they electrocute this rat, when the rat has a baby, the baby is automatically jumping and all of these things. Trauma,
Hmm.
it can be handed down. It not only is it your job to heal your trauma for yourself, it is also your job to heal your trauma. This is about your legacy, your
Hmm.
DNA, your body, but also what you're giving birth to. So not just children,
Oh, come on, come
not
on.
my children, but everything, my life experience day to day that
Yes.
I'm giving birth to. We're giving birth to our life every day. Every day we're giving birth to it. So if I have trauma and negative energy stuck inside of my body, it's gonna automatically show up in some way. Now, is it gonna show up in every single, but it is gonna show up in some way. And also, sometimes it's our job to heal the things, like we talk about generational curses, we talk
Hmm.
about these things. It's not only my job to heal for myself, for my children, for my future, it's also
Hmm.
my job to heal myself for my ancestors as well. Those it's
Yep.
through the bloodline. Things are carried through the bloodline, the DNA. So it's so important that we shift our mindset for our mental health, for our physical health, for our futures, for the things, our relationships that we want to give birth to, for the family styles that we want to give birth to, for the home
Hmm.
environment that we want to give birth to. If your home environment it is disruptive, let's look at what's going on. What is disruptive
Yes.
inside of me? Right? Because as the woman, I'm the center, I'm the heartbeat of this home. I'm the one that maintains that. And our home should be a place, a safe haven for us, for our children. Our home
Yes.
should be a place of peace, restoration, prayer, praise, gratitude, all
Hmm.
things, right?
Yeah.
Um, well, I just had to jump
And
in. I don't think people realize that trauma, it has, our DNA is basically just like a microchip. Our cells are
Mhm.
like microchips. This has been studied. So this is not just me on one, okay? These things are, it's research based, okay? It's been researched. Our DNA and our cells, they're just microchips. So we have to be careful. It's okay to delete some programs off of our phone. It's okay to delete apps off of our phone.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we need to unlearn and delete those things, deal with them, heal where it hurts so that we're not carrying that into our life experience.
I think that's good that you say that too. So that brings up a whole nother point, and then I'll circle back to my original thing. But with the DNA, because a lot of times people that I've talked to, they can't figure out, like, they feel like, oh, they had a great childhood. Oh, even though they may have been in a single parent home, they have a great child, but they don't realize that a lot of times those things are passed down, even in your conception. I learned that I was conceived in trauma, and a lot of people are conceived in traumatic ways. Maybe, it was domestic violence in the home. Maybe it was the case of rape. Maybe it was, who knows? It could be any type of traumatic or maybe one or both of their parents was dealing with their own trauma in the moments of their conceptions and of their conception and things like that. And so you were literally created in trauma. And you may not even know that or realize that, but that may be where your issues are stemming from. Maybe you did have a great childhood, not realizing that you were conceived in trauma. And so that is what, has been haunting you basically and affecting your life up until this point. So, sometimes we got to do the research. We got to do some research. We got to do some digging just to fit peeling them layers back,
Mhm.
just to figure out where it came from to begin with, so that we can face it and then heal from it. And so the other thing that I wanted to circle back to that you were talking about earlier, you had said something about putting on a mask. And I've had a lot of interaction recently with people talking about masks. And one of the things that I learned that I didn't even realize about my own self was not, I don't call it a mask per se, but the way that it was presented to me was that it was a whole nother person. And it's not like, you have multiple personalities per se, or schizophrenic or anything like that. But what happens is, and this is a part of that strong Black woman culture, is that we go through traumatic experiences sometimes, and it could be early on in life, and we create a survivor. We
Yeah.
create a person, another, because we have to disassociate from the thing that we're going through in order for us to get through it. They teach people how to do this in the military, so that if they ever get what is it called? If they ever get kidnapped and held captive and tortured, they can mentally disassociate so that they can survive that treatment. It's the same thing. So what happens is, you go through a traumatic experience, and I learned going through my own therapy, because I see a therapist regularly, that when I was 5 and 6 years old, 7 through 11 years old, being molested, I created another person
Mhm.
so that I could disassociate from what was happening and be able to live through that, right? Domestic violence situations, same thing. You know, rape, sexual assaults throughout, same thing. You rely then on that person that you created to basically be your representative that's showing up so that you can keep yourself safe and hidden behind that. And then that representative ends up showing up later in life in different ways. I didn't realize that that person was showing up in how I dealt with my husband, even.
Absolutely.
In the beginning when we were dating, I was basically being a people pleaser, and I've done this periodically throughout my life, not even realizing that I became this people pleaser, because that's the survivor that I created, is that people pleaser, so that I can keep myself hidden, so I don't have to feel the rejection, so I don't have to feel the pain, that may come if I show my real self. And so a lot of times that is that strong Black woman. Like that
Absolutely.
person that you create is that part, is that survivor, that's that strong Black woman. And that person sometimes will take over in situations, in wrong situations even, and cause you to look like something that you're not necessarily.
Yes.
So that was deep for me to learn recently.
No, that's again, when you look at whether it's especially in relationships though, a lot of times, just like you said, like the strong black woman thing, it can show up to where you just being super strong, or you can be a people pleaser, because you know what, as a strong black woman, I'm expected to be a ride or die. Like, let's not
Yep.
forget that part. I'm expected to
That's true.
show up and to take care and to provide and to not say no and to be there for everybody else but myself. We see these themes played out in the movies as well.
Yes.
This is not just this, these are the
They
things
normalize it.
that
Yeah.
we live it out in our own lives. So it's not that she's always showing up, rolling her neck and saying, hell no. No, sometimes she's saying, okay, 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 because I'm supposed to be strong. I'm supposed to be able to take,
Handle whatever. Mm-hmm.
another reason why I wrote this book is because I want black women to stop pouring from an empty cup. I want us
Ooh.
to put ourselves as the priority. That's what this book is truly all about. I believe that if we put this title at the forefront, then at some point in time, like you said, we disassociate who we really are, and
Mm-hmm.
we put on this mask and show up as this. But then what about us? What about the
Mm-hmm.
real? What about me loving on me and then also showing other people what that looks like? And so
Yes.
it's so important. I mean, and again, in the black community, we know how to code switch probably better than anybody. And so it does inherently become, and we can also take that behavior on in our relationships as well. But
Yes.
and like, I love that you're being so vulnerable and talking about it in your real life perspective, because
Mm-hmm.
that's what this is all about. How is this thing showing up in my life? Not only from my past, but how is my past causing me to not show up authentically right now in my present relationships? And when you're not showing up authentically, you're really kind of gambling everything that you're trying to build at the same time.
Yep. And I think that that's the key word right there. It's authentic, because I just feel like you have to be honest with yourself, right? You have to be honest with yourself. If you can't be honest with yourself, then you can't be honest with the world. And then you're not showing up, with integrity in the world. So how are you going to run that business? Or how are you going to have that relationship and it work? You know what I mean? Because you're building everything on a lie. You're building everything on an illusion. And that is not gonna, the Bible says that as well. You have to have a solid foundation in order to build a building. You can't, otherwise the building is going to sink, right? And that's just how, life is, period. And so once we're able to get to a place of authenticity, then we can really see true growth. We can really reach our goals. We can set bigger goals because we're authentically being us, and we're not having to put on this mask,
Mhm.
or this other person to try to show up and represent us. That person can't show up and represent us to the fullest because they aren't fully us.
Right.
They're a character that we built to play this part.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with you on that.
I agree with both of you. I come from a different aspect of it though, because me being the strong black quintessential woman, I don't have anybody relying on me for anything. So my struggle with it is different because I don't have to rely. No one was relying on me, which makes me not have to rely on anybody else. And I can get it done. I can get it done. I can get it done. I don't need your help. I don't need your help. But I've come to a place where the selfishness has taken over, and I take care of me first. And if
Mhm.
I need help, I am learning to ask for help in my
That's
community to get
good.
better. As in, these conversations continue to move forward with women and women in my life. My circle has somewhat changed, but it's gotten better. And having that is making me realize I don't have to be strong. I don't have to know it all. I don't have to have it all.
Mhm.
And it is okay. Because
That's
some
good.
people to help me.
Mhm.
And that transfers over so heavily with me in opening myself up for relationships, being able to accept
Yeah.
love from someone. Because if I don't put the stipulations on, they have to help me or I have to do everything alone, then that opens up a wide range of things to be able to receive anything from friends,
Yes.
romantic, from family, and it's a hard struggle to get there.
True.
Because like you said, it's in our DNA. We've been conditioned.
Tell the truth. Shame the devil. That's so real. Tell the truth.
Yeah, we've been conditioned to take care of it all,
Yep.
no matter what. Like we got to be strong because that's all I've ever seen is alpha strong females in my life. I don't know any
Yeah.
soft, demure. I wasn't raised with soft, demure women that didn't take the lead.
Yep.
Right.
So, or didn't act, or they never asked for help. They just got it done. So that's all I know, and that's all I knew I had to be. And growing and realizing that that's a form of trauma to always have to be on and take care of everything is like,
Yeah.
oh, this
Yes.
is life. This is what we did. This is how my family rolled.
It was
It's
normal. Yep.
it's
Um, one thing, this is one of my jokes, but I tell people all the time, and this is not no, but this is just how I feel. Yeah, our moms and grandmas, they were strong, incredibly strong. They literally were miracle workers. I'm from Mississippi, and so like just a rural area in Mississippi, and so I've seen my grandmother go in the kitchen, and it was literally not a lot in there. In some kind of way, put one of those mixed up soups together. It's got spaghetti noodles and beans and ground beef, and it was absolutely amazing with some cornbread, right? That to me, that was a miracle, making things happen. But what I do tell people is your mom did not want to work two jobs. Your mom did not want to not have a man. No, she may not have had a man, but I can tell you this now that I'm a woman, I like partnership. I like having somebody to have my back. I like having community. It makes me feel safer. So sometimes I like even the men who because that's what I see a lot. That's one of the other sides of this strong black woman thing. A lot of black men have seen their mom do it all. So
Hmm.
then they enter relationships and then you think
They expect it.
I'm supposed to do it all. This
Yeah.
is I'm not your mom. And even though your mom did it with grace, she did it with Jesus and whoever else was on her team, she didn't want to do that. She did not, she didn't, she wanted your dad to be around. Even if they weren't together, she probably
Hmm.
wished that your dad would have been more active in your life. Trust me, she wished she had that support. Like you said, to your point, Soraya, we're genetically or we're engineered. That's the word I'm looking for. We're engineered for community. So even though we do take on the persona, just back to what you were saying, Brandy, it's mind blowing to realize, oh, just because I've seen it, it doesn't mean that this is the way that I have to continue to show up. But don't get me wrong. We all have to have strength because trust me, life will throw I know us,
Mm.
but I'm sure anybody that's on this podcast knows life is going to throw us some curveballs, right? We're going to have to be spiritually strong, mentally strong, physically strong, all of those, financially strong, all of those things. Nobody is saying that. I just want people to understand the power of putting yourself in a position to receive, putting yourself in a position to allow a man to do nice things for you or to hold space for him, just to give him that space or just to give your community that space. Like you said, now you're getting to a point where you can ask for help. I also struggled with that. I
Me
was
too.
embarrassed. I did not want to ask people for help when I didn't want to ask people for help, and I didn't even want people to know I was going through stuff.
Yes.
I went through some, man, listen, now I'm about to get really transparent. The night that I went through my domestic violence situation, and I mean, this man at least hit me about 30 or 40 times,
Mm.
all upside my head, okay?
Yeah.
My head was sore, my eye was black. I like for months, my head, like when I brushed my hair, it hurt. This was it was a one time, okay? I didn't keep going back, but that night he beat me like I had stole something, right? Don't you all know I wasn't gonna even call my mom that night. I did call one of my friends, one.
Ooh.
She didn't answer. I didn't even know. I didn't even know what to do, you all. This man, my mom pulled up like 30, 40 minutes later because I was outside just out of sorts, whatever. He had called my mom, just trying to, oh, we got into it. You might want to go check on her, whatever. Had he not called my mom, don't you all understand? I was too strong, too embarrassed, too unwilling to be vulnerable, too unwilling to be authentic to say, guess what? My shit is falling apart. It is
Mhm.
falling. This thing I built with being married to this dentist, this guy that was accomplished and blah, 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 blah. And it looked good on paper. It looked good on paper. I was embarrassed to give it up.
Yep.
I was, and let me tell you this. There were that was the only time he assaulted me to that nature. But he had grabbed my arm a time or two. He had, did a little move a time or two. It wasn't a hit, it wasn't a punch. But he had done one, not
Yeah,
one,
but he was leading up.
he
Yeah,
was
he was building his foundation to get to where
I
he was. Yeah.
unwilling again to be vulnerable. I
Mhm.
was unwilling to ask for help. Now, don't get me wrong. I was Googling online how to be a better wife. I was trying to talk to my pastor wife,
Mhm.
just okay, but should I pray? I was fasting, all of those things. But God was telling me the whole time, baby girl, you keep fasting, you keep praying, you keep asking, and I keep giving you the sign, but you're too embarrassed to admit this is the bed that you've made. And now you're too embarrassed to just go back to your family and say, you know what? I thought I had this one. I thought I lucked up, but I upped up.
Yeah.
But I was too embarrassed.
That's a
And
part of the problem too, because a lot of times we
yeah,
grew up like that. That's how we grew up, right? We grew up with sweep it under the rug. What happens in the house stays in the house. We grew up with the people that that what's the word that I'm looking for? They protected the abuser or whatever because they were too embarrassed for that information to come out. They were too embarrassed for their neighbors to know what was going on. They were too embarrassed for, the pastor at the church to know what was going on. They wanted to still get all pretty and put their little church hats on and go to church like nothing was
we
happening when, yeah,
the
exactly.
of looking married to a
Yes.
money making man, provider, whatever you want to call it. That mask was more important than me actually being in a nurturing and caring relationship.
Mhm.
There's something wrong with that. And then back to your point, I had to cut in right here. This what happens in the house stays in the house. This what happens in your marriage stays in the marriage.
It's
Now,
got to stop.
yeah, you probably don't want to tell the wrong people your business. Yeah, okay, that's cool. But I should be able to talk to my family and my friends, number one, without being judged. So some of you all need to become a safer space for people to truly share.
Yes.
It's a two-part thing. But I need to know that my sisters, my community, I can share with them. But then on the other thing, to me, that keeps so many people in bondage. It keeps
Mhm.
so many people tied to their trauma. And if I grow up as a child thinking and learning, being programmed that what happens in the house stays in the house. When somebody abuses me or traumatizes me, rejects me or abandons me, guess what? Like what happens in the house, we become the house.
Yep.
We become the house that stores the trauma. So it's not just the house that my family lives in. It becomes a part of me. I begin to hold my junk inside and it just transfers over into my adult life. And
Mhm.
so that's another statement altogether that needs to be challenged. But I know within the Black community, we've all heard it. And we no longer need to be telling our children that. We no longer need to be telling people that, because a lot of people are going through things, and guess what? They think, you know what, I'm supposed to hold this in because I'm strong.
Mhm.
I can't share this.
That's the misconception.
That
And honestly, and it's such a misconception because strength doesn't lie in holding secrets, right?
Because
Strength lies in knowing when to get help and knowing how and when to be vulnerable
yes.
and
yeah,
getting that help.
it takes more strength to ask for help and
Sure.
to seek
Mhm.
help and out that to seek that out than it does to hold it in.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Looking it in is only destroying your insides and destroying you as a person versus letting someone in, that vulnerability that you spoke of, letting someone in to allow them to help take some of that off of you, help
Mhm.
you get through, help you deal with whatever it is that has caused you the trauma that is eating you up that you're trying to hide behind. Like it
Right,
takes.
because it's gonna come out somewhere, some way anyway,
It's
right?
coming.
It's gonna show up somehow in our life anyway, whether it be the relationship, whether it be the relationship with our kids,
Mhm.
whether it be at the workplace when somebody, let me tell y'all, recently, last year, I was at a job that this is when I learned that I had PTSD. I kept getting triggered at this job. Didn't even realize I was being triggered, but because this environment was so toxic, everything that was done and said in this place was like a trigger to me and took me back to a space of, rejection and anger and um pain and I wasn't realizing this until I realized depression creeping back in, and now it's creeping back in so hard to the point where I feel like I'm spiraling out of control and I feel like I need a drink or something, or so I'm like, hold up, something is not right. And so I started seeking therapy at that point because I'm like, wait a minute. And she's the one that told me, look, you have PTSD and you're being triggered. And so that's something that we have to pay attention to, but that's what happens. We think
Mhm.
we're so strong, and I think we were talking about this before we jumped on a little bit. We think we're so strong and we're good and we're we've ignored all of the things so long that we feel like we're healed from them because we haven't thought about them in so long, when the reality is they ain't went nowhere, boo. They ain't went nowhere. They still there because you have not dealt with them. And like
Listen.
I said, I just learned about this other person that I had created, right? That was not something that I ever thought about. Yes, did I know I had issues in relationships? Of course. Did I know that I didn't have I wasn't able to fully connect with people on a deeper level? Absolutely. Been like that my whole life at this point. So for me, it's my normal, but it's not normal. It came from a place of trauma. And that other person that I created is the person that's been carrying it. So that person shows up. But I thought that I was healed from all of that, that I was good. That I was the queen of that. I'm good, right? Until these strict triggers started coming and started to unravel all of that.
Absolutely. Like you said, what we were talking about, and it's so important. I do want people to understand, just because you don't think about it anymore, just because you don't necessarily feel it, it doesn't sting anymore. That has nothing to do with if you have been healed. Those are two separate things. Just
Mhm,
because you don't think about that divorce, that molestation, that trauma, it does not mean that you have not been healed. And we have to begin to heal where it hurts. Here's my issue with the Strong Black Woman title. That's a part of it. We go through these traumatizing experiences.
mhm,
We bury them inside of us, and we think that the strength is in just being able to keep it inside and not be vulnerable, not talk about it, not cry about it.
yeah,
So many women say, I'm not gonna cry about it. I read this article today, and it was a Black woman. She said, I don't even cry in public places unless it's socially acceptable, like a wedding or a funeral. Um,
wow.
those things. Even sometimes we don't even allow ourselves to cry, though, right?
Mhm.
Mm,
It
Been
like,
there.
man, tears wash your soul.
Yes,
Tears
they do.
your spirit. It is okay to cry. Sometimes we need to get on our knees and call out to God, your ancestors, whoever you want to call, whoever you want to name, all of them, any of them. Call,
All
call
of them.
help. Say, God, I need you. Send me somebody. I mean, like I tell people, this in the book. I don't know which Jesus, if it's Easter Jesus, Christmas Jesus, whichever one of them, baby Jesus, call on all of them, okay? But be willing to be vulnerable. It is power in that. It is power in crying and
Mhm,
releasing. I love what you have going on right now, Soraya. This thing about writing to heal. Some of you all have never even written down the words of what happened to you.
mhm,
Still trying to ignore it. Baby, you need to write now. You know what? It's at the age of 6, my uncle molested me, then my cousin molested me, then my daddy. Whatever it is, face the music. Heal where it hurts. It's ugly. But guess
it
what? Like
is.
like I was telling you, when that wound gets that infection, and it does. You gotta go in, you gotta scoop all of that
Yeah,
stuff out.
debridement. You gotta
You got
debride it.
you gotta treat it. But we
Mhm.
don't want to treat it. We think we're going to put a band-aid over something that is absolutely cancerous, and that is
Yes.
the
And
issue.
stinking. And it stink.
think.
And other people can smell it.
Here's the thing. You're carrying this negative energy. You're carrying this stinky vibe, and everything you want to say is, I don't know why she don't like me. Out of every time this man, all of your relationship is always them. On your job is somebody that doesn't like you. Somebody, baby, listen. You better listen.
And why
Everybody,
you attracting other people that stink? Cause they numb to the smell themselves.
Listen,
That's why they like you.
world
listen,
wrong.
and we have
Huh?
to stop
The
trauma bonding too.
world
That's trauma
wrong
bonding.
too.
So yeah, say it again, Brandy. I didn't hear you.
I said everybody in the world can't be wrong. It got to be you.
That part.
It's
Come
time
on.
to reflect. If everybody don't like you,
Listen, here's the thing. Do you like you though? Do you
That
know you? I know you don't like you because you don't know you. I know you don't like you because you have not taken the time to truly, yeah, you like to get cute. You like to post for the gram. That's not knowing you. That's not loving you. Now,
yes.
that social media thing is that's a whole nother
That's a whole nother show
that's
in
a
and of itself.
negotiation created. Okay. Now we can dive into that one too, but that'll be a whole nother topic. But do you even like you? Do you know you? And listen, when you deal with your trauma, when you write it down, when you write these letters to the little girl inside of you, when you tell her, man, I love you. I know we went through some stuff, but guess what? You stuck with me and I stuck with you and we made it through. Affirm yourself. Give
Hmm.
yourself props for guess what? I'm still here. I'm still showing up for myself. It may not be perfect. You know what? I may have to have a couple of drinks during the week. I may have to do whatever it is. I may not make all the right decisions, but guess what? Every day I'm still choosing to actively show up for myself. But if
Hmm.
I don't even acknowledge what I've been through, then I can't really affirm how strong I really am. See, that's where the strength is. When I can acknowledge what I've been through, when I
That's
can say
right.
I've been through it, that's strength. But this thing of not acknowledging and just,
Covering it up with makeup. Let me put on
girl,
some foundation
okay,
and
I love
lay
a
these
little
edges down.
okay.
Let me put on some lashes or whatever. Come on, sis. Like we
Come on.
can still see it. Just
We
FYI, we can
F
still see it. So
FY.
listen, we got 4 minutes, you guys. I just want to go ahead and get wrapped up. Say thank you to everybody that's been rocking with us on this podcast. We really appreciate it. Man, Ivy, it's been great having you here. I just want to. I'm gonna go around the room. I'll start with you, Ivy. How can people contact you? How can they buy your book? Where can they connect with you at?
Absolutely. And so I'm Ivy B Alchemy on Facebook. I am Beautiful Brown Alchemist on Instagram. My book is available on my website. It's www.beautifulbrownalchemist.com. So you can go there. I also have an affirmations deck, and it's to help us to begin to speak the language over our lives to kind of shift that narrative and unlearn what we need to unlearn. But it's an ebook. As soon as you buy it, it's immediately available. Their way is no delays. You can immediately have access and take time to read so that you can tap back into who you truly are. Soraya, again, and Brandy, thank you all so much for sharing your podcast, your platform with me. Thank you so much for holding space and being able to have this very necessary
Yes.
conversation that it can be a little bit uncomfortable, but I so appreciate you ladies. And I'm definitely speaking blessings, love,
Thank you.
fulfillment, prosperity, and completion of those degrees. You will complete everything that you put your hands to. And I pray that you all have a continue, like even your podcast. I pray over your podcast that it continues to grow as well. Thank
Amen.
you so much.
Thank you. Brady, how can I connect with you?
well, first I want to thank everybody for patience with me and my technical difficulties. It all transpired in a matter of 30 seconds. But my Facebook is my name, Brandy with an I, Davis. And what is my IG is, what is it? Oh, Miss B.A. Davis, the stylist, because of course I do hair. That's my personal page, and everything's open. Um, to contact me, send any questions or send any what is it, topics that you may want to talk about, you want to hear about, you want us to discuss. You can reach me on those two platforms. And what else? Thank you for coming in. You were so informative. Send me your link
Yes.
to your website, and I'll post it on my pages. And
Absolutely.
Also, I'll put that in your book in probably for my summer reading because I'm in school and I'm finishing up my seventh book, so I need a break. But yeah, I'm so appreciative for you coming on to our little podcast.
It ain't little.
Oh
It
no,
ain't.
It
it,
ain't little.
it,
Anyway, so again, my name is Soraya Christine. I am an author 6 times over now. I am also a trauma recovery coach. So if you need help with your healing, definitely hit me up. I can be found on IG under trauma recovery underscore coach. On Facebook, I am Soraya.Christine. You definitely can DM me on either platform for topics that you may want us to discuss on our podcast, for interests in becoming a guest on our podcast. You can reach us on those platforms as well. Also, I just want to put it out there. I do have a workshop coming up starting on June the 6th. Listen, you guys, the price is $4.99 for a very limited time because in May coming up here in probably another 2 weeks, the price is going back up. So the value of the course is $14.99. That is the original price, and that's what it's going back up to. So you better go ahead and jump on there. You can join on my website, which is lilachealthandhealing.com. Again, that is lilachealthandhealing.com. That is the name of my business, Lilac Health and Healing, which stands for Ladies Influencing Life Altering Change. And that's what we're doing here. So we do appreciate you guys for joining us. We're going to go ahead and sign off. And thank you again so very much for being here. You were an amazing guest, and we really appreciate you sharing all of your knowledge, wisdom with us today.
Thank you again, ladies. And yes, as my girl said, yesterday's prices is not today's prices.
Mm-mm.
Tap in with Soraya, okay? That challenge, that workshop, it will change your life. So just as an end note, invest in yourself, invest
Yes,
in your healing. Trauma recovery is a very real thing, and we have to heal where it hurts. And it starts with that trauma recovery. Go ahead, tap in, don't think about it, figure it out, pay for it. We pay for everything else,
that's
and it
right.
will serve your life so much better than a new pair of shoes or a vacation. We can't keep putting our broken pieces into new clothes and new wigs
Ooh,
experiences and thinking we're gonna get something new. No, I need to
ooh,
put my
it's
broken
gonna all fall off when you take your clothes off.
back
Mm.
to okay. All right.
Woo! That was good. That was a good ending note. All right, you guys, it's been my pleasure. Thank you so much. We'll be back in 2 weeks at 6 p.m. right here. Bye.
Okay.
Bye.